Hi, everybody. It's me again with my glasses on this time, and of course, my mask. Had my COVID test. I think it's the 13th or 14th one now, and just had that done right before I came here. I want to share something that Nick shared with our session group the other day, and I hope that you can enjoy it like we did. He brought it in to me, and I just thought it was the coolest little thing. It's called Breakfast at McDonald's. I am a mother of three, ages 14, 12, and 3, and have recently completed my college degree. The last class I had to take was sociology. The teacher was absolutely inspiring with the qualities that I wish every human being had been graced with. Her last project of the term was called Smile. I know that's something difficult for us to do because we're wearing these things so often, but I think you can see it in the eyes when people smile. The class was asked to go out and smile at 3 people and document their reactions. I'm a very friendly person and always smile at everyone and say hello anyway. So I thought this would be a piece of cake, literally. Well, soon after we were assigned the project, my husband, youngest son, and I went to McDonald's one crisp March morning. It was just our way of sharing a special playtime with our son. We were standing in line, waiting to be served, when all of a sudden, everyone around us began to back away. And then even my son or my husband did. I did not move an inch. An overwhelming feeling of panic welled up inside me. And as I turned to see why they had moved, and as I turned around, I smelled a horrible, dirty body smell. And there standing behind me were 2 poor, homeless men. As I looked down at the short gentleman close to me, he was smiling. His beautiful sky blue eyes were full of God's light as he searched for acceptance. He said, "Good day," as he counted a few coins he had clutching in his hand. The second man fumbled with his hands as he stood behind his friend. I realized the second man was mentally challenged, and the blue-eyed gentleman was his salvation. I held my tears as I stood there with them. The young lady at the counter asked him what they wanted. He said, "Coffee is all, miss," because that's all they could afford. If they wanted to sit in the restaurant and warm up, they had to buy something. He just wanted to be warm. Then I really felt it. The compulsion was so great, I almost reached out and embraced the little man with the blue eyes. That is when I noticed all eyes in the restaurant were set on me, judging my every action. I smiled and asked the young lady behind the counter to give me 2 more breakfast meals on a tray, please. I then walked around the corner to the table that the men had chosen to sit at, and I put the tray on the table and laid my hand on the blue-eyed gentleman's cold hand. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes and said, "Thank you." I leaned over again to pat his hand and said, "I did not do this for you. God is here working through me to give you hope." I started to cry as I walked away to join my husband and son. And when I sat down, my husband smiled at me and said, "That is why God gave you to me, honey, to give me hope." We held hands for a moment, and at that time we knew that only because of the grace that we had been given, we were able to give back. We are not church goers, but we are believers. That day showed me the pure light of God's sweet love. I turned to college on the last evening of class with this story in hand. I turned in my project and the instructor read it. Then she looked up at me and said, "Can I share this?" I slowly nodded as she got the attention of the class, and she began to read. And that is when I knew that we as human beings are being part of God share this need to heal people and to be healed. In my own way, I had touched the people at McDonald's, my son, the instructor, and every soul that shared the classroom on that last night I spent as a college student. I graduated with one of the biggest lessons I would have ever learned: unconditional acceptance. I thought this was so appropriate for this time. I've had a lot of people say to me, "I don't know what I would do without this church or a church." And I do want to remind all of us that, yes, we are a church community, but we're also a church community out in the mission field of God. And church can be in McDonald's. It can be in your house. It can be in a car. It can be in a truck. Church can be anywhere that God's presence is. And so, you church goers that I love so dearly, the lesson today, as this lady says, unconditional acceptance. Let us not forget how to open our arms wherever we may be in this world. Amen. Have a great weekend.